hello everyone again. Now, this morning, how was it? I mean, you feel that you have had enough of the day, or you want to hear more? More. All right. So we talk about the theories and philosophy this morning. So this time I'm going to actually talk about the methods. Yeah, the method that we use for data collection. And then the last one we'll talk about, doing part with a particular group of people. So this one, I'll give you some ideas about how we can collect data for PAR research. Okay, now when we talk about PAR, you can see that because there are different ways that we can use to collect the data. You can see that in PAR as well. And what actually makes your project PAR or participatory research is actually how the methods are implemented. Yeah, so how the methods are implemented, or that means how we actually do it. So remember this morning we talked about collaboration. Yeah, we need to collaborate with our communities or research participants, and that means that the co-learning will happen among the participants and also us. We learn a lot too, and we also emphasize and value people's knowledge. So any knowledge, any expertise, that sort of thing we can use is also from the participants. So in the end, the participant can be empowered to take action to improve their lives. So that's how we do participatory action research. Some people think that doing PAR is just like doing any qualitative research. That is not quite true. It's only just part of it. So when we do PAR, it has to get to the action, to get to the point that participant will be participated more, and then action will follow. So that's what we have to remember. Now, yeah, so different from other qualitative research for sure. Okay, now when we talk about the method that we're going to choose or to use, there's a few things here, okay? Here, we need to think about first. So we need to think about the need assessment, yeah, in order to identify the problem. Who asked me this morning about was it you that asked me about, what? No, it's not you. Someone else that talk about how do we know the problem, that sort of thing, yeah? Do we set in beforehand, or we have to do a survey or something like that? So here, that what we're talking about, we need to assess, okay, what is the problem here? What are the needs here? What are the concerns here? So we have to think about that, how we can find the problems, and that we have to actually work with local people, because what we identify as an issue, it has to be exactly what the local people want, or the needs and concerns of the local people. So we need to do some sort of needs assessment in order to know what is the problem here and what needs to be solved, what needs to be done to improve their life. So the first thing we need to think about that. Okay, and we need to think about the money that we're going to have, because the finances will dictate, okay, like what sort of thing that we can do and how long we're going to do, and also the method that we're going to use as well. Time, we need to think about time. How much time do we have? Do we have 1 year only, 6 months only, or we have a few years in order to do the whole project? So we need to look at that. Now, we have to look at the characteristic and capacity of the community and the participant, okay? Like, we need to look at who we are working with, because it will dictate what method we're going to use, whether we can just talk with them, or whether we have to use some drawing, whether they know how to take picture and that sort of thing. So we need to know that. How much time they have for us, okay? Like, if people have to work and work and work and work, can they involve in our project? We need to think about that as well. And all these things will dictate the choice of methods that we're going to use in our PAR project. So before you can just start your PAR project, you have to think a lot about many issues. Whether our PAR project will be approachable, feasible, or workable, that sort of thing. We need to think like this. So all of these things, involve us to work with the community, involve us to work with people who are in the local community, so that they know what are the issues, and we can do that. Now, here I give you some example of the method we're going to use. Yeah, some example. Now, say you're going to use a focus group, okay, which is one of the qualitative research method that we use in PAR, that sort of thing. Our focus group may have to be classified or stratified by age in community where okay, it is culturally acceptable for younger people to speak in the presence of elders, okay, who tend to have more rights in saying things, who have to be able to share their opinions without interruption more than the younger people, that sort of thing. We have to think about that. And in many cultures, you might find that the older women would have more, may have more power, have more freedom to express their concern than the younger population. So something like this, we have to think about it. Will it work by using focus group in our project? Okay, do we have the people that we work with, which I did say in the last slide, can we group them together in our focus group, or should we separate them? Or should we use something else? So these are the things that we need to think before you say, I'm going to do my project. So that cultural issue, isn't it, that we need to think about. So local knowledge is very important, and that's why we involve local person or people in our research. Okay, so that's the example of the Helen's project. They use focus group, but they conduct separate focus group with mother-in-laws, elder women in India. Now, they separated from younger women or daughter-in-laws because, mixing them together won't work. Okay, so that's what I mean by local knowledge. You need to know that. And this is just one example of using focus group. You need to understand the cultural values and also the cultural practices of local people. So thinking about what I said this morning, we need to work with local people so that we know that what method we can use. So that's just one example here. Yeah. So think a lot about a few things that I said in my first slides. Okay. Now, when talking about philosophy of PAR, which is more of the subjective research, more of the qualitative nature, that sort of thing. And that emphasize this, the production of knowledge and empowerment. Okay, we tend to see that PAR research employ qualitative research methods. So we tend to see that. Okay, and there are many qualitative research methods that people adopt in their PAR project. What you have seen though, most will be an in-depth interview, using an in-depth interviewing method, and focus group, which I did say before. Okay, some people involve also life history. That means, you get people to talk about their life. And some people even include things like participant observation, which is part of an ethnographic methods in their PAR project. So we have seen so many qualitative methods used in a PAR project. So this mainly, just talking, dialogue, talking, sharing the stories. Here you observe people, but you also participate in their lives. Okay, so anyway, this morning, some person asked me, you can see that some projects actually use quantitative research like survey at the beginning, because that's what they need to know. What are the issues, what are the problems, the prevalence of the issue, and so on. But not only just some. Okay, not every project will use quantitative research in their PAR project. But even if they use quant methods, the result of those, need to be understood within the socio-cultural context of your PAR project. So you don't just use the number to justify your findings. So quantitative like survey will be just, at the beginning. Some people what we use is a rapid ethnographic research that's very similar to survey in a way at the beginning, which I will just touch on a little bit later on. So as I said here, keeping with the philosophy of PAR, we tend to use qualitative research methods in our PAR project. Now, that one example here, let me just go back to this a little bit here. Right, as I said here, that a wide range of qualitative research methods will be used in PAR project. So we have seen these sort of things. So in this lecture, I'm not going to include any of this because I think that if you have done qualitative research, you would have heard a lot about this sort of thing already. Yeah. So I'm not touching on that at all. So I'm going to bring you through others way that I think will be quite interesting for a PAR project. Okay, first one is the Rapid Ethnographic Assessment or REA. Now here, as I said, very similar to a survey in a way, it's a quick way that we can collect the data in order to understand what is happening. So it's a method that bringing insights of anthropology to obtain information on a topic in a very, very short amount of time. It's probably about 4 to 8 weeks. So it's quite cost effective in that sense. So quick for you to gather information. And certainly at the beginning of your PAR project, you learn what are the issues, what are the problems there. Now what you do is that the information that you gather for REA, then you analyze, and then the information later on, then you develop some sort of interventions or use it for other projects. So that one way that you can do. We use this often, okay, when we already have experience or knowledge of the community and who are developing new project or intervention. So we know a little bit of that, but we want to know more. And if we want to develop some sort of intervention or program, we use this because we can collect the data quite quickly. So because of our previous knowledge and also the relationship that we have with the local community, it allows us to learn quickly about the problem. Okay. Now, with this rapid ethnographic assessment, typically people will conduct interviews with key informants. So key informant refer to those who are knowledgeable about the local issues. Sometimes they are community leaders, sometimes they are traditional healers, sometimes they are policymakers, and so on. So they are able to give you a lot of ideas. Sometimes it's just local people, but they are very knowledgeable about their local area. So you learn a lot quickly from them. Well, we can do a few focus group interviews, okay, and do some observation, that sort of thing. So we can include that in the REA. Some people do a short survey as well. So that one quick one that we can use in a PAR project, okay, REA. Now, however, you see that the REA is a little bit more like positivist side. That means a little bit more and quick, So you don't really get a lots of information, or particularly the subjective knowledge of people or the experiential knowledge of people. Sometimes you don't get things like that. So you might find that most PAR research tend to use methods and communication strategy which have a hands-on nature. Okay, here it means anything that work, anything that will be easy for local people to participate. Okay, so that what Brian Miller's talk about is sort of like something that you can allow people to be able to express their voices. And certainly, of course, when you work with vulnerable or marginalized people, you need to have what we call the hands-on strategies. So you see that there are different ways that now we do the research, because by allowing people to be able to participate, then it allows oppressed people to be able to find ways to tell us the story, and it breaks the culture of silence among oppressed people. So that's what I'm going to focus on, the hand-on nature strategy. So the way that we can do research that's fun for us and our participants as well. Right, so, okay, and that means that we need to think about innovative research method that they emerged in the last, a few years now, that we have been talking about innovative research methods. Some writers call that emergent methods. Some people just use innovative methods. But some of the methods, when you hear later on, they're not that new. They have been used a long time, but no one actually named it. Okay, no one called it that sort of thing. And sometimes people don't think that it's a research way of data collection, but that's what we now sort of refer to. Okay, so we have been increasingly used in PAR, the innovative research methods. Okay, now here, I just give you an example here in a PAR project in Zimbabwe. Okay, and that project tried to obtain demographic data on fertility, population size, and mortality so that they can create a community-based information system. So what they do is that, see this, they use participatory modeling, area maps, okay, were drawn, and then they use a bit of quantitative data here, quantitative data on births and deaths among children with the communities. They collect them, okay, and even, okay, women who were illiterate, that means they can't read, they can't write, were able to participate in this participatory modeling way. So that's what I mean by the hands-on strategy, the way that you can help people to be able to take part in your PAR project. Yeah, so like this one is a good example. Women can't read, can't write, but they are able to participate in the PAR project, that one in Zimbabwe. And some of these things like participatory modeling, some people may have used that in anthropology, sociology some time ago, but you see that now we start to make use of these things. Okay, community mapping, that one that we have seen a lot now. Is the way that we can get the information about the issue, about the problem, by getting the participant to do some sort of maps, to map certain issue. And that can be anything, things like homelessness, can be living with HIV or anything like that. So you need participants to be able to come up with some sort of map. So example here, just a picture of the drawing, that sort of thing, and a piece of paper, and people just draw thing which would be related to what you are doing in your research. Here you can see that mapping is a creative way that can include multiple voices in a community. And it doesn't mean that people who can't read or write cannot participate, okay? It doesn't require literacy skills, as long as they can do a bit of simple drawing, something like that. So illiterate people can participate in that. Okay, now you can involve things like people record about resources, buildings, that sort of thing, in order to find or capture distribution of resources. Like where would be the resources that you can draw on. So people just draw some picture like that. So here it doesn't have description, but it might be a church, it might be a school, it might be a community health center. That sort of thing that you need to talk with the participants. So people will tell you the story, but by creating things like that. So you can see some sort of map there. Okay, now what else I can do here? That's just an example here. This is a PAR project with young people, and they use community mapping to look at about geographical, something else, like emotional and aesthetic experience, and also social relationship. You can see that it's not just only physical thing that people can use, can actually show in the mapping, but it can be even things like emotional stuff, that sort of thing you can also do. But the important thing is that when people do the mapping, you need to let them talk. Yeah, so the dialogue is still very important there. So people will tell you, like I'm too far away, like I can't make use of these resources because of what, that sort of thing. You need to talk with people. So we see the use of community mapping a fair bit in PAR project. Now this, those from some book or some internet, so not my own research. I think I do have some example from my own student to show you as well. Now, remember I said that even people are illiterate. That means they can't read or write. You can see that okay, they still can participate because it doesn't require in doing a map like this unless you ask them to write like that. So some people might not be able to write, but you know, when you talk with the participants and you ask them what this means, and they said, oh, it's about village life, but they can't write it, you as a researcher can also help them as well, but because it's come from them, okay, so that's all right. But you know, if people can write, then of course you will see some writing like that too. But these pictures, see that? Is there any writing there, a little bit there, something like that? But you know, like they don't have to be literate, that sort of thing, they can. So so they can, you know, literacy skill are not required, that sort of thing. But then other thing that they can use, like artistics, the mapping like that, just pictures. Some quite very simple as well. Some are more elaborated. So here we are is the research by Perkins. So Perkins used what? Mapping in his mapping project. So what is that? It includes parish mapping of green spaces, among other things. So these are the things that people can do. So you can see that the local knowledge and local needs and concern can be captured in the community mapping. Yeah? So get people to draw and then get people to provide the story. So dialogue follow. Okay, now that's from my students, the project. Now this one is Hala's project, who worked with the young refugee from Lebanon living in Melbourne. And she looked at social support in that project. You know, as a young refugee who came to Australia by boat, that means most of them would be illegal migrant at the beginning. What sort of support that they need, what sort of support that help them to live, to establish themselves in Australia. So that's just one example by Fadi, who talked about the neighborhood. You can see that it's just a simple thing, yeah. So that the highway, and what is that? Got the milk bar, shops. That one is Centrelink. I'll talk a little bit about this quickly. What else? What's that? Can't read that. Gym, swim, that sort of thing, and that would be the park. Yeah. Look at McDonald's. McDonald's in there as well. Yeah. And that, I think that's school, something like that. Now, this is very interesting that this young person includes Centrelink. Centrelink is in Australia. Is the government organization that looks after people who don't have a job. Yeah, older people who are single mom. You know, it's just like people who are on welfare. So Centrelinks will provide some sort of money to those people, but at the same time they have some rules, something that require you, like you have to seek job and you have to every week, and you have to show, you know, have some evidence and so on. So anyway, Centrelinks play an important role for people who settle in Australia. Some people have good experience with Centrelink, some people have bad experience with Centrelink, but it plays a very, very important role for social capital of migrant and refugee. So that, you know, from this simple mapping, community mapping, we asked Fadi to tell us the story, and that becomes, you know, our data. And we actually published that in this one, which is in the reference later on. Okay, so that one example there, and that one is another one, is by another student. So here, this young person talk about church as safe and welcome place. So you can see that again, very, very simple thing, and church here, okay. Safe and welcome. I think that what it says church there, and here the person say, I feel unsafe in the park. So here is about park, but he or she feels very unsafe when he or she in the park. I think it's a boy anyway. When he was in the park, he feels very unsafe. So he said that. Okay. So I got the house, shop, that sort of thing. Shopping is too far. That too, but he just put TO in, so too far, that means the shop is just too far away, not convenient for him. When he go to gym, he feels very good as well. So for some people who can write, that's what they do as well for their community mapping. So that's one way that you can do as a data collection. It's very interesting, when people draw the community mapping and then you hear their stories. Okay, so that community mapping. The other one is the Freelisting Method. We actually follow this from, we adopt this from many people in anthropology. They use this sort of thing. So although it is a qualitative research, but very easy for you to use some sort of statistic or number or like a percentage to quantify things. But anyway, I mean, you actually try to collect the data using qualitative way. So it's very quickly and easily amass data. That means you can collect the data very, very quickly. So, for example, identify items in the cultural domain or image category. That means category that appropriate for the local areas. Indicates which of those are most important or salient with the culture within that particular group, and reveal how much variation there is in the knowledge and or belief in the question. So by free-listing thing, you can see that you can collect data quite quickly. Now what we do in a free-list interview, then the participant, okay, simply, quickly list members, like things, okay, that they think to be part of a domain, for example, ways to avoid HIV, breakfast food, reason to fear hospitals, or treatment for a cough. Doesn't matter, okay, anything like that. But they quickly free listing, okay, and it doesn't matter in what order. Just when they come to their mind, just write it down. Yeah, just write it down. So you just say that, for example, when you want people to list ways to avoid HIV, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how many you want them to do, just write it down. Yeah, so quickly. So anything that comes into your mind, you just do it. Yeah, so like what happened when you don't have food to eat? 1 steal, 2 work, 3 bake, something like that. You can just do that quickly. So it really depends on each person's experience. Yeah, you see the different story will come out. So then the resulting list, okay, that will tap into the local knowledge. And again, of course, it will be vary. And so it really well suits to find knowledge, attitudes, and practice. Things like ethno-medical belief and also some types of the preference, anything like that within the local area that you do your research. Okay, now with what I said, that the attention and careful consideration, free listing can result in a large amount of high quality socio-cultural health data. So you can actually get a lot of information from the participant. But of course, free listing doesn't tell you the story. It's just things that come into people's mind. Things are important to them. Yeah, things are that they have, they want to say. But it won't be like an in-depth story. Yeah, you won't get that. Yeah, so it's not a way that you can collect the data. Hang on, did I miss one? Hang on, let me. Okay, did I miss this? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I think, yeah, here we are. All right, so here we are. So we, as I said, it's started they use a lot in anthropology, but now in health research, we see that people start to use more and more and more. Okay, now, say for example, in a series of health study, you see that they have used free listing with these sort of projects, yeah, like women's view of urinary incontinence, nutrition concept and strategy among the urban poor, who's that? The Philadelphian, parental and pediatrician decision making about the ADHD, and perspective of parents, caregiver, and clinician on heart failure management. So someone asked me about the type of research that we can do. You can see that these are just some examples, and these are the real thing that people have done using free listing method. Okay, so that's that different thing that we can explore. Now this one just, like example about using free list. And here they talk about, the post-disaster thing, that sort of thing. So I won't talk about that. I'll let you to read the thing yourself. But you can see that we use more and more nowadays. But the one that I want to show you is from my colleagues, the Marcia Quinlan. Now, she actually looked at ethnomedical research in rural Dominica in West Indies. Now, that's her own research. She's been doing this project for a long, long time. So, from this project that she looked at ethnomedical research, that means look at the traditional medical system in Dominica, that sort of thing. So what is that? What did she find? It allowed her, using this free list, okay, to find culturally important illnesses, the thing that people classify as illnesses in Dominica, identify local herbal treatment for those illnesses. So what people use, things like herbal medicine and roots and plants and things like that to help people with the illness that happen within the community. Explore socio-demographic variables associated with treatments knowledge. So what do we do? People are sick, and now what sort of treatment they're going to use, whether they use the local herbal medicine or they seek help from medical health care and so on. So that, she used a lot in her work, but this one is very important, and it's quite recent that she wrote about this. I find this very, very interesting. And the simple thing that she would do is that to list people. Like, for example, this one. List illness that happen in your community, whatever that you have seen or experienced. Okay, so people will write. And then she asked them to list her local herbal treatment for the illness that you just list. Yeah, and the last one is just that, tell me about your medical knowledge or treatment knowledge in local area. So just a few simple prompts, then she get the information. Okay, so that the free listing methods. Okay, now here. Sorry, I have to, I think that's still from Marcia's project, I think, okay. Now, remember I said that for the community mapping, people don't have to be literate, yeah? Whereas here, people have to be, yeah? People have to be able to write, yeah? Or to read or whatever. Okay, so it's different from the body mapping research now. So here, in fully literate community, yeah, things like plants names, illnesses, and so on. Okay, they would have to write in the language that researchers understand, and also sometimes they use local terms as well. But something like that, okay, that it has to make sense to local people, and also the researcher here, Quinn, she has to understand what it means. So that people need to be able to write to explain things like that. But then she has to do interview, and the interview sheets, mainly contain a prompt written about the thing that they have listed, that sort of thing, so that you understand why they list such a thing, why this unit needs to be treated with this herb. So interview will also happen. Okay, now sometimes people have computer or smartphone and also internet access. Okay, the people actually can do that, can use that. So you can adopt what we call the internet research nowadays in order to get people to free listing. And Marcia actually did that in her research as well. So these are the things that you can adopt, you can adapt in a way that suits the local people. So you can see that in Marcia's Quillen's project, she used a few things, not only just free list, getting people to write things on a card, but there are other things, including the interview as well. So it's not that complicated at all. Yeah? You just have to make sure that you understand people. And it is just one part of PAR. Okay? I'm not talking about PAR as a project at the moment. It's just the method that we use in order to employ in our PAR project. Okay. Now, free list can be oral. Yeah, that means talk, face to face. Yeah, so in Quinlan, that what he say, that what she said, that she just collect the data first face to face. She got people to, as I said, list a few things, you know, like the illnesses, the treatment, the herbs, and that sort of thing. Yeah, but sometimes the people can't really talk that much. So she actually, I think she got people to do some drawing. She got people to do other things as well. So you can combine that. You can combine not just only the oral. And nowadays, as I said, we have internet access to the internet for some people only. Then virtual thing can also happen. So you know, you make use of what the available within the local community. Okay, so that for the the Freelisting method. Okay, so simple, quick, okay, and not too complicated. So I did talk about the community mapping. I talk about free listing. Now I'm talking about body mapping method. We started to see this more and more. Okay, so you probably can guess from this thing, rather than drawing about the community, is something to do with body here. So what we do is that we use a body as a point of departures in whatever we want to collect the data from. So we draw a life-size body, and sometime which I will show you next, you know, it's just our body or the participant's body. You draw that on a big piece of paper, and then from there, people can connect to things. So the life-size body will be drawn, okay, and then the other things will be connected to the body. So the body mapping, again, the same thing, you have to follow with dialogue. You know, people have to be able to tell the story. So you draw the body first, okay, so I just show you quickly about that. So that, okay, you just get the participants to lie on a big piece of paper, and then you draw the body, that sort of thing. And then the body, after that, you connect with things. So that just want to show you this first. Yeah. So that the body, that's why we call body mapping. So let me go back to this slide. So now here okay, what I have to say here, I think I probably said that already. Okay, so when you, I think I don't need to say too much there, but I want to continue here, right? Just let me just go there. So after you get that, yeah, so say if this, you as a researcher, or say this is one of the participants, then someone else will draw, because you can't draw yourself, of course, yeah? So draw the outline of the body like that, all right? Now, then, okay, see this? You can start to connect with things. So you ask the participant to connect. Say, for example, here is about pain, or it's about something like that. So, okay, so what else? That here, that some of the black things here, and the word pain, that the heart there, that sort of thing. So these are the things that the participant will add to the body. And from there, okay, and you then have the dialogue with your participant. Here is about pain and suffer. Yeah, so why is that it got this black dot here? Yeah, and the heart there, why is that? So what you don't ask them why you draw that, but you say, what does this mean? Okay, tell me, what does this mean? Or tell me what this means to you. So you ask people that way. So that's what I call the dialogue that follow the body mapping. So people will talk, you know, this black thing about something else, and so on. Yeah, but all these things will connect to their own body. So they embody the pain and the suffering in this case. Yeah, they have embodied the pain and suffering. So they will talk about this sort of thing. You might even ask them, you know, where does the pain come from? You know, what causes pain? You know, why do you have that pain, and so on. And that when you know about the causes, you know about things that, you know, lead to these sort of issues. Yeah, so that body mapping, we see more and more of this used now. Yeah. Okay. let me just go back to that bit there. I want to give you one example, but not on the slide. I recently examined one PhD thesis from South Africa, and the student actually used body mapping for women living with breast cancer. But they actually have to experience recurrence of breast cancer. That means that they got treatment, got better, but then they got it back again. And she used body mapping, and it's the picture that women, the participants, have drawn. The story that follows is just so moving. You know, I just can't stop reading her thesis. It's just so good. And you know, it's just the body mapping that she got. And the picture that the women draw is so colorful. It's really, really nice to see like that. And the point is that the women are able to express themselves about having to deal with recurrence of breast cancer. Yeah, lots of them talk about living in like a limbo, something like that. I don't know when I'm going to die or whether I'm going to survive, that sort of thing, because it has come back once, it may come back again. You know, it's a sad story to hear, but it's just so strong to see the picture and the story that women talk about their bodies. Yeah, so body mapping is about the embodied experience, okay? So people have to experience certain things so that they can actually tell you the story. Yeah, so another way that you can use in your PAR project. Okay, right, next one, okay, digital storytelling methods we use a lot again in PAR. So here I use the work of the Glaston and colleagues. You might find that in some project or some paper that talk about digital storytelling method, it's a little bit different from what Glaston said in that I used in here, but the idea is the same thing. So what they said is that it is an it is an intensive workshop-based practice to guide the production of short audio visual videos or digital stories using a structured process. So that's what Glaston and colleagues said. But for some people, they don't use workshop. Okay, they just allow people to record their experience or live experiences without having to do a workshop like that. But some people do. So you see a little bit of variation when we talk about digital storytelling method. So each stories will be about 2 to 3 minutes length, so not long. Yeah, not long. And in the story, it combines first-person voice and based on the person's story script. And quite often, people put music, video clips, or photographs, text and drawing, that sort of thing, from their own stories, or sometimes they take it from the internet or magazine, but most often people will do the picture from their own by themselves. But it involves having computer, okay, and digital cameras, and also some editing software. Although quite often the researcher will actually provide things like this to the participant, so you can't expect the participant to have all of this. Yeah. Certainly when you work with poor people, marginalized people, how can they have that? But something like that we have to have, you know, like a tool to the participant. But the participant will need their own story, and they have to tell the story in a short script like this. So that the digital storytelling methods. Okay, now this of course come from the arts-based health research, and you see that's why it evolved into the PAR project more and more. We have used a lot in PAR nowadays. Okay, why people, PAR researcher interested in digital story methods? Okay, here. Because they claim that it helps to enhance our understanding of participants' lived experiences. So we hear the story from them. It empowers and engages our participants in new ways, addressing or the rebalancing power relations. So, you know, like it empowers our participants. So that means the imbalance of power will be less there. So it accounts for emerging skills and abilities, including how to use visual, how to take picture, how to tell stories. So they actually learn to know to do that, and that because of that, then it becomes empowerment for people. Okay, and help to initiate social change by creating a platform for dialogue about troubling health topics. So that exactly, by through digital storytelling, people become empowered, people learn how to change their life and so on. So that's the reason why people use a lot in PAR. Okay, right, a little bit more. Now, here is about production of good stories. So on this slide here, it's just part of what Gladstone has done. But as I said, some other people might not do this. So here she talked a lot about producing good stories. So she has to help the participant to know how to edit the stories. But that is part of the emancipation and empowerment. Anyway, yeah, people learn how to edit their talk, their dialogue, their stories. So people have to involve in like a workshop in order to know how to edit things. So that's just part of Gladstone's work. So I just show you that. But again, I mean, it doesn't happen in others' digital storytelling method project. So that's just part of editing good stories. Some people say that we don't need to editing good story or make, because reader need to learn about, any stories anyway. So not just good story or the edited version of the story. We should give the freedom to participants to be able to tell the story in any way through digital recording. So just one aspect. So I won't talk too much about that. You can read that later if you can. So here is from Gladstone's work. So the 7 elements of digital storytelling. Now this, okay, that bit there shouldn't be in red, but I can't change it, so it's there. So here are the issue here. So lighting, points of view, okay. These are the things that she theorized, okay. So point of view, you ask the participant, what do you want to say? Okay, so you tell people that. So it's about point of view, but when you tell people, you say, what do you want to say? Second one, dramatic questions like story structure. You tell people, how can you say it best? That's what you tell people. 3 is about emotional content. So, you have to tell the story that help the audience to care, tell the story in a way that people can grab it and understand you and care about your life. Your voice, so only you can tell your story. Here that means that we can't tell your story on your behalf, you have to tell it yourself. Soundtrack, okay, so here you should add music and other elements to your story. Again, that doesn't happen to all projects. Economy, here, keep it simple when it comes to words and images. That's what is used to help your participant. The last one, pacing, give viewers time to take in the story. So don't rush, you just tell your story at your own pace. You can go slowly so that people can, hear your story. So it's sort of like some people come up with structures, some structures about doing the digital storytelling method. So I present Gladstone's work because she writes her papers quite structurally, and I think that if you want to adopt that, you can actually follow what she says. So again, you might say that, do I have to have all these things? No, you don't, okay? Depends on your PAR project. But some of the things that you can prompt the participant, you can ask the participant to do in the digital storytelling methods. Okay, right. Now, producing digital, I just got a few of these because I think that is useful to know. Right, so here in Gladstone's work, she actually do a workshop. Yeah, so therefore, she get people to learn how to produce their story. So it's about just facilitating a workshop for the participants. So the same thing, it doesn't happen all the times. But that again, like how to produce good story, that part of her work. So people have to participate in the workshop, edit the story, put the music in, put some visual thing, that sort of thing, so that they can produce that sort of short script. And other people read, people listen, and then people sort of like experience what the participants have to go through. So I won't talk again, okay? Just give you some ideas about what you can do, like if you got time and energy. So just give you some ideas. So I won't talk too much about that. That I think is the same thing. So workshop, okay? So just I want to leave that. I think three there. Okay. So that was the digital storytelling methods. When you read that, you might find that it's quite complicated. But as I said, for some project, what you do is that you give a digital recorder to the participant and ask them to record the live within the framework of your research questions, and anytime that they are free to do so, and then you collect the recorder. Or you can ask the participant if they got a mobile phone, and a good one. So you can ask them to use the mobile phone to record the stories and then send the story to you. You can do so, but you can't assume that everyone will have a mobile phone, and certainly a good one. Okay, but because some mobile phones not very good in recording things, but certainly the more expensive one will. Okay, so if they don't have a mobile phone, then you have to provide them with a digital recorder. And then, like some farmers, you ask them, when they go out and look at the animals, just give me the story, that sort of thing. And researchers have done that, like people recording when they walk to work or something like that. So the Gladstone work is just complicated, okay, because it's quite structured, but for some it's not. So when you come across certain papers that use digital storytelling method, it's not complicated at all. Yeah. All right. Now, then I bring you through some sort of visual methods. So the part will be sort of, just writing, drawing and things like that. So nowadays we have seen more of the visual methods as a way that we can get participants to participate or to tell their stories. It created a lot of avenue for the participant. It allows us to see the lived experience, the life of our participant a lot more through visuals. And this visual can be in many ways. Some people use drawing, okay, get the participant to draw some picture. Some people do what we call a photo elicitation method. That means that you prepare some photographs about the issues like pain or motherhood or homelessness, that sort of thing, but you prepare it. And then you use the photograph for the participant to talk. Okay, prompt them to talk about things. But, you prepare the photograph. But the one that is quite powerful and is also used widely in PAR projects is the Photovoice methods. Okay, so we use a lot of these nowadays among indigenous people, homeless people, lots of issues you can see everywhere. Okay, so it's part of the visual methods, and it sits neatly within the participatory action research. So it's the Photovoice method. Okay, now it's still, and I call it innovative methods anyway, and it works mainly with marginalized people and also in cross-cultural research. And here, certainly this project rejects traditional paradigm of power and production of knowledge. That means that rather than the researcher has the power and knowledge, it's the participant who has the power and knowledge, or knowledge and power. And it brings about critical consciousness among people, and of course it will empower them. Okay, so that sits very, very neatly within the PAR philosophy. So that the use of Photovoice. What we use is that that one I did say that before, that we use a lot in PAR research now. What we have to do is that we ask the participant to take pictures Okay, and then from the picture that they have taken, we talk. Again, dialogues will come in. We talk about the picture that they have taken. But of course, you have to give them the framework. For example, like a take photograph about being a homeless person, that sort of thing. Of course, the participant would be a homeless person, and they can take any picture that's relevant to their lives. Okay, so safe place, for example, or warm place, for example. So they can take any picture anywhere that they like, that they can do. So you never tell them, take the picture of the nice house, take the picture of a beautiful home. No, you never. Or you tell them that. So from the picture, which the participants have freedom to take, then we talk with them. Yeah, sometimes we do an individual interviews with the person, but most often we bring them in a focus group, get them to come in as a group and then talk about it. This give a lot of freedom to the participant. For those who have not used the camera before, and believe me, there are many of them, it empowers them. Okay, it allows them to learn how to use camera and learn how to produce knowledge within their own the context of their life. So I think that the main things about the Photovoice. So you give them freedom to record or take picture of what is relevant to the issue that you want to examine. So it raised that critical consciousness about people's life and so on. Okay, so it's part of the part that depends on how many objectives you have, a research question, and that's what you have to ask people to take the picture, which will be related to your research question. So again, see this name comes back. It's actually situated neatly within Paulo's approach about critical education and the emancipation, but rather than talking only, it's about using photography that people document about their life, but of course dialogue is there as well. Now, remember the educational practice that I talked about this morning, that people need to know about their own problem and then how to solve it and how to get to that point. That's something like that you can do in Photovoice as well. So people have to identify the problem in their life, what makes them that way, like why am I so poor, that sort of thing, and then how can we improve that, and so on. So it's really situated within the Paulo Freire's their philosophy. Okay, so I think that I want to say that in his own work, he also stressed the power of visual image as well. Okay, he was talking about using image in order to empower people, and that's why we adopt that in our PAR project, and Photovoice, of course, come from that. So here I reiterate what I said this morning. So it's really situated within Paulo's, Freire's, PAR's approach. So that's the Photovoice. Okay, now Photovoice also is a method that based on feminist research. When we talk about feminist theory, it suggests that power accrues to those who have voice, set language, make history, and participate in decision. Okay, and this what the Caroline Wang has said that all along from the beginning. Caroline Wang was the original person who developed the Photovoice project, and she did that in China. She got poor Chinese women to take pictures about their lives, and she came up with the story, she came up with theory that we use nowadays. Okay, so, and of course, Caroline Wang used feminist theory in her Photovoice research. So she said that through the photograph, that sort of thing, people can have their voice heard. So she worked with Chinese women, and then later on she worked with other groups as well. Okay, what we do, what the feminist framework say is that photograph that produced from the Photovoice project, in the end, it can be used to influence the policy makers and so on in order to allow them to hear the story of those people. And in the end, they might come up with some sort of interventional program that can improve the life of those people who took part in the Photovoice project. So in a way, it can change social situation, it can change the society. So actually the photograph or the methodology of Photovoice moved beyond the personal voice to the political one. That means that society can change because of that. And I will tell you a little bit of story a little bit later on. It might come up in one of these slides too. So really situated within the PAR philosophy when we talk about the Photovoice, more than the other method that I have presented so far. Okay, it's really in that. Okay, so here we are. I was too quick to talk about that. It was developed by Caroline Wang, and here her co-author Mary Ann Burris, and that about the women in China. Okay, and it was used as a empowerment tool for women who live in poor, mountainous, and remote area in southwestern China. That was the original work. Yet through the photo and group discussion, the women explore their daily interaction, and women identified reproductive health as their main concern, and that became the focus of their Photovoice project. So here, remember the PAR project, what would be the local issues? And here the Chinese women talk about reproductive health, and that story or that project was about that, but through photographs. So the problem would be set by the participant, and then the method and everything else will follow there, what they can do. So I was quick to talk about that, but that repeat what I said before. So this Photovoice method, okay, aims to do a few things, like will encourage discussion around the topic that would be the concern of the participant, like homelessness or sex work and things like that. Okay, it creates a safe environment for discussion and reflection among people who participate in the study, I mean the researcher and the participants. It encourages participants to recognize a need for action in certain area of their life or community, so local problem, okay, to identify that and then work on that. It permits the idea to be disseminated to a wider community in order to facilitate change. So their ideas, their problems, their need and concern will be disseminated in wider community. And here, quite often it involves policymakers, service providers, and of course, they believe that some change may happen. So what happens when we do Photovoice is this, that when participants take the picture will be used for a dialogue, okay, discussion. And after the data has been collected, everything done, after the analysis has done, then normally we produce what we call is like a forum, okay, a forum or some sort of community meeting. And we display people's photographs and the stories, and we invite policymakers, health workers, whoever, that sort of thing that we think might be relevant to social change that might happen, and we invite them to come and then read the story, they hear the story. Sometimes we have the visual thing rather than just picture as well. Sometimes we do workshop, accompany the pictures. So that sort of thing that we do. So we believe that by doing that, some changes will happen, of course, to the better. That's what we expect. So that would be the aims of the Photovoice. So what participants will have to do, okay, the task that the participant will do is taking part in an informational training session, to receive a camera if they don't have their own, and determine the topics for their first photo assignment. So see this, take part in a training session. That is what we call the empowerment and emancipation place, that people learn new skills, people learn new knowledge, and that part of the PAR philosophy. And so of course we give them the camera, okay, and also talk about the issue that they want to do. Then they take photographs to record their realities and their experiences, okay, for whatever that we ask them. So as I said, don't tell them to take the picture of the beautiful house, but say something like, take picture of your safe place. Yeah, and that safe place can be a beautiful house, can be a church, can be a school, can be a university, can be a coffee shop or something like that. It depends on how they see it. So we have to give them that sort of the broad instruction. Then after the photograph is taken, then they'll take part in a group discussion. So now we use some sort of focus group in there. People share the photographs, people talk about the photographs, and that's when you hear the story again. Then we organize a forum, exhibition, and that's what I said early on. So, and that at this point, we actually can invite the participant to take part in the forum or exhibition as well. And what we normally do is that after that, we keep the photographs back to the participants. Sometimes we do a nice album for them. Sometimes we just create like a booklet for them. And that sort of thing, it helps people to feel rewarded too. That, I have taken part in this project. See that my picture is in that. You know, that part of what we call empowerment. Yeah. So it's very nice to use the method in a PAR project. Okay, what else I can do? Okay, normally there will be a few phases for Photovoice. So phase one, you might do initial focus group. Here, you start talking about, maybe you start with a problem, okay, that they face, okay, or training, doesn't matter. Then of course, you have to tell them how to use the camera and so on. Then you ask them to take the pictures. Okay, so again, you have to tell them how many, that sort of thing, at least how many, okay, and these are the prompted, you want to ask them, that sort of thing, so you have to give them that. Then follow up with structured interviews, semi-structured interview from the photograph and like that. Then you might do another focus group to share the photographs. After that, you summarize the key photograph and the stories, that sort of thing, and then you disseminate the finding through a photo exhibition. So that the forum that you you finish off doing for a Photovoice project. So a little bit complicated, but it's actually quite empower to many people. Okay. Now, the practice of Photovoice, there are different ways. There's a few things that we can do. So first one, is the questions. Yeah, it's the question when after we got the picture back, okay, there are a few questions that we ask the person, and we just use the word show it here. So 6 questions. So what do you see in these photographs? So like if that the photograph there, you ask the participant, what do you see? What is happening in the photograph? You ask them that. How does this relate to your life or our lives? Why do these issues exist? How can we become empowered by our new social understanding? What can we do to address this issue? So these 6 questions, I follow the work of Lopez there. So we ask the participant about the picture that they take. So if you do an in-depth interview individually, you just do it one by one picture and ask all this. And from here, that's what you get the stories, the narrative from the participant. So we use show it in prompting the participant to speak. So this happens after they have taken the photograph. Yeah, so a few steps they have to do. Yeah, so ask them that. You know, people might not understand this question. You know, how can we become empowered? So that's what you have to think about, local term, local way that you can ask people. Because the word empowerment or empower is the Western concept. Does it exist in Chinese culture, in Thai culture, or whatever, that sort of thing? If not, you have to think about the word that very, very close to the word empowerment. Yeah. So think that way again when you ask when you ask people. Yeah. So other thing I think that people tend to understand when it get to this point, that what we have problem with our trans women. What do you mean? That's something they will ask you. What do you mean? Yeah. So so you need to find ways that you can ask. Okay, now that's just some of the pictures that I want to show you. Some are from my own research, some from the internet. I just search for picture. You can see that some of the picture just very simple, like this one. See, a toilet. Yeah. But it doesn't look like a very good toilet, is it? And then that you have to ask people that, okay, like what do you see in there? What does it mean? That sort of thing, the choice thing you ask. What else? That just a homeless person maybe lying on near the fence. That again, you just use choice to ask. Yeah. So, and that just medication, and look at that, look like a slum, but again, these are the things that people take, and then you just use choice to ask them to talk. Yeah, so just some example of Photovoice, more of that. Also this one actually show you about the exhibition. See this picture here? That's what you do, yeah? You just do some sort of posters, and this would be the pictures and story of one participant, then another one, and people come and have a look. So like that. You can make it like a fancy exhibition depending on how much money you have. Yeah. So like that. See that? And compared to this, see that how much money you have to spend for this compared to this. Okay. So again, depending on your budget and where you are located, you might do a fancy one like that. But just a simple one in a community setting would be good. You invite people to come. And some of these pictures are just some of the things that you have. But that from your participant, not from your own. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. Now, having said for a long time, I'm going to get you to watch another video, okay? This one is about the Photovoice project, things about why they do Photovoice, and then what in the end they use the Photovoice for. It's a very good one to watch, so I'm going to show you, and only just 7 minutes, not too long, okay? Just look at the example of good Photovoice one. Okay, that's the one that we just saw. So that's just example of what we can do with Photovoice. And although the video itself doesn't talk about the research using Photovoice, but it talks about what can they use Photovoice in order to influence change in a community. So you can see that thing did change in that particular community. And that's what we want when we use Photovoice. Okay, so that's just one example. I do have another one, but I won't, I have a few that I searched on the internet, but I won't show that. This one is very interesting. It's about a Bhutanese refugee living in the UK. It's quite interesting there. It's about using Photovoice to, to empower Bhutanese refugees. That another one, I think one more, I thought I have a few things that I sort of try to choose which one I want to show, that sort of thing. So anyway, just pick one. There's some interesting stuff on the on the internet that you can look at. So just give you some example of what we do with Photovoice. So before I finish this session, I want to give you the example. I did mention this morning that my project on transgender women and sexual violence, we use Photovoice, and that project based on the feminist participatory action research as well. So we involve trans women in our research, and we also involve a grassroots person from Gender Center as part of our research team. So in that project, we invite the participants and all trans women from minority groups, because that's what my project focuses on. So we ask them to talk about how they see sexual violence in their everyday life, their own experience of sexual violence, and then they take photographs that, that relevant to the meaning and experience of sexual violence in their everyday life. We actually got quite good photographs from the women. Some quite, I don't know, like a really, how would you say, it's really, it's quite fearful in a way, like to be a trans woman, that sort of thing, like the thing that they have to deal with, because it's about sexual violence. And this sexual violence can be in terms of, like verbal or real things too, but it has to be relevant to sexual violence in the way. So we actually got quite a good a set of photographs from the women and the story. The story is just unbelievable that we hear about being a trans woman from minority groups living in Australia. So we now at the point of we have analyzed the qualitative data. In that project, we actually include a little bit of quantitative data. So we did a survey of not just only trans women, but we look at the group too, LGBTI, cisgender, like that as well. So just another part of the project. But the main part is the qualitative participatory action research. So what we have planned is that we are now writing up the report for the funding agency, and we're going to do the forum or the exhibition mid next year. And we're going to do it in Sydney because that project was done in Sydney. And on the day, we're going to provide a bit of training for health workers and social welfare workers about how to work with trans women. And so not only just the exhibition of photographs, but also some sort of training. Yeah, and that's one way that we think that we can influence social changes for trans women living in Australia. So that's quite an interesting project that I have done. Okay, so it's quite very good to get to that point. Right, okay, now in conclusion then, okay, so there are different ways that we can use as our methods for data collection in a PAR project. Most often, we combine the orthodox qualitative research like in-depth interview focus group, life history, with some innovative research methods. But the important thing is that we have to involve the participant in our research project, like if possible from the beginning until the end. But then again, some projects we may not be able to involve the participant fully, which I'm going to talk about in the last session before a group work after the break. So we have to think about which methods would be suitable for our research project, the people who are going to be involved in our project, and budget and time and so on. So I have given you a few things. Yeah? You might combine a few methods in one PAR project too, not just only one. Yeah, so like the example about trans women, we use Photovoice, in-depth interview. Now we actually, when we wrote the proposal, we also include the digital storytelling methods, but most women do not choose that. We give them the freedom. You want to tell the story or you want to take the photograph. Most chose the photograph because I think that it can portray their life better that way. Yeah. So you can combine a few things. Again, this sort of thing depends on your research question, the people involved, your money and time. Okay, so I think that I have given you some innovative ideas about doing a PAR project. So any questions?